Welcome to the Landy Peak podcast. I'm your host and friend, Landy Peak, and I am thrilled to have you join me. In each episode, we will explore what makes life truly fulfilling: happiness, deep connections, and self-discovery. Together, we'll uncover that happiness is not a destination, but a way of living. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the Landy Peak podcast. This is Landy Peak, your host and friend, and it means so much to have you here today. Today, I want to share a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's been going on in my life and tell you the real story behind Magnetic Her. Not the polished version, the real one, the messy, sacred, honest journey it took to get here. Because what I'm offering now didn't come from strategy. It came from unraveling everything I thought I had to do. It came from freezing in the middle of a relaunch, and it came from learning how to listen to my own body again. So over the last several months, let me backtrack. I've talked before in my journey how a little over a year ago, I shut everything down. I was overwhelmed. I was burned out. And I really didn't like how I was living my life. It wasn't aligned with me. My business felt like a push. It felt like, I was successful. I had 6 figures in my business, but it was draining. It wasn't fun. I love showing up with my clients, but the business part of it was just, And then life also hit, and I just needed space. So I pushed pause on life, thought it was just going to be a week, ended up being 2, ended up being months, where I kept my contracts in work. So it's not like I completely disappeared, but I disappeared off of social media. I stopped going on completely. I no longer marketed my business. I showed up for my clients, and that was it. And I really started showing up for me. So fast forward, I did a ton of research. I got myself some support around hormone replacement therapy, which gave me so much energy back. But what I really tuned into was the life I was leading, the life that I was successful at, wasn't aligned with who I wanted to be. So I dove into happiness research, and I dove into perimenopause, and I dove into all of the things that I was really struggling with. And I recreated a life that I really loved. I felt like the life that I was then leading was so aligned with who I was. I brought back in dance. I brought back in horses after, oh my gosh, dozen years since I'd been on a horse. I'd brought back so much of the essence of me. I slowed down. I really enjoyed the relationships that I had in my life, my kids, my partner, my friends. I created those deep connections. I focused on those. Those became a priority. I became a priority. I really sat in my power. And I came to a spot where I was like, okay, I'm ready for business, and I'm excited. And so I went to launch the same program. I don't really do big launches, but I went to offer the same program that I had been really successful at. And I couldn't do it. I choked. I froze. I really didn't want to. But I love serving. And so I sat here with this conundrum of I can show up with the clients that I have contracts with, that I'm still showing up for, and I love it. I sit down on those calls and I am just in heaven. And I can't get myself to promote anything else to bring in more clients. I want to serve, and I can't make myself do it. There was a huge disconnect. And so, like I've done in the past, I hired a business coach. This business coach, she'd been my mindset coach in a different program. And so I reached out to her in Facebook DM and basically verbal vomited all about like, I'm trying to do my business and I can't get myself to do it. And like this whole long message. And she's so kind. And she's like, it sounds like you love what you do, but you're misaligned with how you're getting out in the world, how you're offering. And it sounds like you're doing business in a very masculine way and you want and crave to do it in a feminine way. And I'm like, yes, that's it. That is it. So I signed up with her to do some business coaching. Well, I had worked with her in the past, so I shouldn't have been shocked when she wouldn't be a traditional business coach for me. So I remember like coming in hot and like ready to do this and I'm going to push through. And she's like, pump the brakes. Hold on just a sec. We already know from your DM that this isn't how you want to do business. So to start, what I want you to do is pause. And I want you to sit down and cross off everything that you have done in your business that you absolutely hate that you never want to do again. Well, that was easy. So I sit down and I do all my homework and I'm such a good girl. And I cross off everything that I don't like doing in business. Now, she's like, I want you to really tune in. How do you want to do business that's in a feminine-led way? Well, that's easy. I was able to like create. And I love the podcast and I love connecting with people and I love it going on other people's podcasts. And I could come up with feminine ways that would help me grow my business. Awesome. So we sat in tune with, do I love the program that I'm doing? And it's like, no, there's aspects. It's working with business humans. And while I love the humans, I don't love talking about business. I don't love focusing on money. I want to focus on the deeper work. I want to focus on the work that I just led myself through. Awesome. So I sat down and from the flow of sitting, I literally went and sat by a lake. I went and sat out by the horses and I created this program and it is phenomenal. And it was called Spark Initiative. And I sent it out to my email list once or twice. And I had no energy to launch it, to put it out in the world. Like the email list was easy and that it was out there and nothing happened. No one signed up. So I go back in my next coaching session and I'm like, no one signed up. It's not working. And she called me out on my negative attitude. And she said, okay, I want you to sit here and really tune in to how does Landy want to do this? Let go of all of the knowledge that you have of what you should do with marketing and how you should create a landing page and like all of this stuff that I had done for this new Spark Initiative program that really, I still love the fundamentals. I still love parts of it, but I got stuck in the how. I got stuck in the to-dos. I got stuck. And so I sat in front of her and she'd ask me a question and I'd say, I don't know. And she'd ask me a question and I'd say, I don't know. And so finally she got so frustrated. She's like, you may not use, I don't know, again. Okay. So I sat. And I sat in front of her in silence as we're staring at each other over Zoom. And she keeps turning back the question to, how does Landy want to do this? What feels aligned and good for Landy? And I'm no longer allowed to say, I don't know. So I stare at her. And then I say, well, could you just give me some ideas? No. And we stare at each other again. And finally, like a petulant child, I said, you're not helping. And she just laughed at me. And she's like, well, I guess that's your homework then. Go figure it out. Figure out why you can't launch. Figure out what is standing in the way. Figure out inside of you how you want to do this. So I called my therapist and said, okay, I don't want to focus on anything other than why I can't freaking get myself out there. And it's curious. As I sat with my therapist, I had to get curious. And that first session with my therapist really was as productive as my coaching sessions. I was so resistant to even looking at what my problems were. And I kept coming with, as I sat in front of my therapist, this should be easy. I've done this before. I've done Instagram reels. I've done public speaking. I'm on a podcast every week and I love it. I've done Facebook Lives. I've done emails. I've done this. Why is this so hard? And the logical part of my brain kept throwing in, like, come on, this should be easy. You've done this. And why can't you just do this? And wasn't super kind. And we had to sit with it. And my therapist asked me, okay, but what other parts are present today? And there was this little part that would not be seen, but was okay being heard for just a moment. That said, I'm terrified to be seen. It's not safe to be seen. Well, that explains why I'm not getting out there. But why now? Because I've done this before. If my coach would frickin' just give me a list of to-dos, I could master the to-dos. I'm so good at mastering to-dos. I can work a to-do list like nobody's business. But what I really learned, I was really good at following the masculine way to do business. But I was craving a feminine way, a way that felt aligned and felt good. And so as long as I could override whatever was going on inside my body and just follow the checklist, I could make it work. But I'd hit a point in my life where I couldn't do that anymore. Where I really had to be aligned with not only the program I was offering, but the way I was offering it. So I played around with this little part that's not safe to be seen. And as I played, I started being able to branch out a little bit more. As I sat and played with horses and hiked and allowed my brain to just ponder without conscious effort. And my coach had once said, just treat Instagram like a scrapbook of what's going on in your life. Get over the big, this is scary, and you have to push and market, and you have to whatever. Just allow it to be a way to share. And so I started taking videos. I have a ton of videos on my camera. And the very first reel that I put out in this new aligned energy, I literally just sat through with the videos I already had on my phone and then did a voiceover and shared. And it was the tipping point to this feels good. This feels fun. This feels aligned in a way that I can share that isn't fast paced. And so I continued to work with my coach, who would call me out on every little thing, and my therapist, who was helping me explore why it wasn't safe to be seen. And I figured it out. And so I gave up trying to force it. I gave up the masculine strategy that caused panic in my body. And I leaned back into the energy that I had created over the last year. I leaned into the energy of it must be easy, that I am open and expansive. I leaned into the energy that was there with me before I tried to bring in business again and my nervous system went haywire. It wasn't that I was failing. I didn't know how to bring my work into the world without following a checklist, without the tasks, without the hustle. I was desperate for somebody to tell me what to do, which is why I hired a coach. not really to go deep diving into my inner workings, but to have somebody kick my ass to be able to get out there and do it. I was great at following through, but trying to grow a business in an aligned way that felt wrong and different than anywhere else I was looking, I didn't know what to do. And I was really lucky I had a coach that wouldn't just give me a list. It was interesting because my coach was right. And she'd said, if I give you a task to do, you'll build something that you'll want to burn down in 5 months, because that's what you've done every single business. Not necessarily 5 months. Some of them lasted years, but I've built things and burned it down because I cannot sustain the masculine way of doing. I can't sustain the hustle. She wasn't helping the part of me that wanted to hustle, but she was helping me stand in my worthiness. As I really came back to the drawing board again and again, refined and refined, aligned and aligned, more than refined, I created a program that felt so good and so needed. And it was like the exhale that I experienced in my own body and needed in my business. But it was hard because I'd spent months thinking I should launch. I'd spent months saying, I'll bring in more money. I'd spent months saying this, that, and the other. I distracted myself, obsessing over a program name that was just right. Going to, well, if I'm going to launch this, I need all new photos. So I better hire a photographer and go do all new photos. No, my coach said, no, you can't do that. Ugh, she just ruins all my fun. But what she saw as I played with program names and what should all be in the program, and if I should have a perfect photo, was that I was hiding. Even with this new aligned program, I was hiding. And it took a coach who wouldn't let me hide, and a therapist who really helped me understand what was going on, and tapping into my own tools and resources that I am including in this incredible program, where I did take my business into my pelvic bowl, where I took my money, found out my money bowl was completely flipped upside down. Interesting. But I used the way that I had lived, that I had loved to live, that I had really thrived, and I started bringing those tools that I used in my life into my business. I started resourcing incredible women to help me. And I worked around the witch wound in that struggle to be seen, to be powerful, to be intuitive, to be me. Because I found that some of what I was working with wasn't even mine. It was ancestral. And eventually, I found my way back, not to the hustle, but to myself. I came into deeper alignment with myself, which allowed me to stand in full with magnetic her, which is what I want. I don't want to push or chase people into my program. I cringe at all of the tactics to shift somebody's perspective and mind so they sign up and then they feel shitty afterwards. I wanted to be magnetic. I wanted to sit there and have people align with my presence, with who I am, that my offer is really my presence. This became my go-to. It's still on the sticky note on my computer. My presence is the offer. My presence, not the to-dos, not the things, me. And I invite the right woman, not chase them. Because what I found is it's not about filling up a program. It's not about having so much money in the bank. It's not about hitting 6 figures. It was about doing something that made a difference. It's about a way to change the lives of other humans, of other women, like I had changed my own life. And I didn't want to do it in a hustle. I wanted to do it in an offer, like a hand out to a friend. And so that's what I've created. I created Magnetic Her as a space for women who, like me, are tired of performing, who are so ready to come home to themselves. Because the world is full of curated women. The world is full of fake. The world is full of push. And what we need right now is alignment, is power through calm, is being able to regulate our nervous system because the world is so dysregulated. It's being able to see a headline and not let it completely shift you off kilter. That you can be mad or upset or disgusted or whatever, but that you are still safe in your body. That's the difference. Not letting every headline make you bounce from like anxiety and up and crazy feelings of like, I don't know, the world is ending, to, the world's pretty fucked up right now. And I'm okay. And I'm safe in my body. And as long as I can be in this calm, grounded power, I have power. My voice can be heard. It wasn't about being flashy and showy. It was about speaking my truth. So I have a new program. It went out to my email list this week, which my coach called me out on again. But I did a soft, quiet launch. I sent an email, one, to people, not even my entire email list, to a select number of people on my email list. So if you got it and you're on my email list, it means something because my email list means something. I sent it to the people who open my emails. So when I go into my email server system, you can select, send to all contacts, or you can select send to those who have opened an email in the last 30 days. I mean, you can choose 7 days. You can choose, I did 30. So even within my email list, my email went to a small subset of people who actively open my emails. And I sent an email with a really heartfelt message of I'm announcing this first here because you are the one that opens my email, no matter what. My email list, and thank you for being on there if you're on there, has watched me in every pivot from being a pelvic health provider to being a coach for pelvic health providers, other therapists, to burning everything down and going radio silent, sorry for that year, to random emails that came out as I'm pivoting and shifting and trying to figure out who the fuck I am. And it felt good to just send it to the people who have supported me, who have held space by just opening an email. I also sent a very heartfelt personal email to people that I really felt resonant with over this program. Honestly, those are the people that, as I'm creating it and sitting with it, that came into my thought process. And so it's not a huge launch. It's not about how many people I can get in and can I get, 300 people in. That feels big. But I invited people, women I adore, because that felt true. This program, it feels so easy as I take it into my body. It doesn't consume me. As I create it, and I'm still in the process of creating it's a year-long container, which I know feels like a lot. But as we work with the nervous system, it feels so incredibly supportive, because how many times have we been in programs? How many times have we read books? How many times have we done things for a short amount of time? And as soon as the support's gone, we let it go. I literally just did this. There was a 40-day meditation thing, and we got a meditation a day. And for 40 days, I followed this. Now, the directions were then, after 40 days, go ahead and restart it. But the support stopped, and I stopped. I know this about humans. To be able to create lasting change, we need longer-term support, not flash in the pan. So while there's not like modules coming out for an entire year, there is support for the entire year. And that, I think, is key, because it's when we feel off kilter, when the stress hits, when the life events hit, that's when we lose whatever progress and gains that we've made, and we revert back to what feels safe and familiar. Our bodies, they will choose an unknown hell over an unknown heaven every single time. It's one of the reasons people stay in abusive relationships. We know it. We can predict it. Our nervous systems want predictability. And so, doing something this big, doing something that changes the course of your life, you're going to need a lot of support, because your nervous system's going to freak out. And so I maintained my life as I created, as I'm stepping into this, as I looked at how I'm going to market this. I still played with my horses. I hiked. I foster kittens. I actually just adopted one. I volunteer at my kids' school. I learned to make candles. I continued living. And because my focus isn't on pushing, it's on being, it's on living, it's on allowing, this is just the beginning of Magnetic Her. It's not just the program, but it's a movement. It's a remembering. It's a returning to who we are, because this isn't becoming someone new, right? There's that be, do, have, and I totally followed it. Be the person you want to be, to do the things you want to do, to have the things you want to have, right? And so many of us go in reverse. And I love the principles. But it puts out there that we need to be someone different. And I think that's bullshit. I think you already know who you are. I think if you look back to who you were as a young girl before the world told you to sit down and shut up, before the world told you to dim your light, before the world told you you're not good enough, she knows what she likes. She knows who she is. And that's where I went back to. And that's what Magnetic Her is doing. It's helping women like you and me guide back to remembering who we are. Because it's easy to be. It's easy to create from a space where we have creative energy when we know who we are. And it's such a different story. So this is just the beginning of my story. I don't know how it's going to end. I'm recording this just after I sent out the email and sent emails to people that I adore, and haven't even given it time for people to sign up. So I can't tell you the outcome. That'll come later. But I can tell you, this is the first program that I have created that feels fully aligned. This is the first program that I know will help people change their lives. And none of it's new. Isn't that funny? None of it is new. This is taking my life's work and creating it into one place. And that's the incredible thing, is because I've had such a varied experience taking in the sensory aspects from when I was a pediatric therapist, taking in nervous system regulation from my trauma therapy days, taking in the power of our pelvic space and the work of really coming in tune, embodying who we are, taking in the principles of yoga and how to create an environment that supports you and doesn't overwhelm you. Because I think we've all been there when you look around your house and there's so much clutter and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stand it. I can't take it anymore. And that's when we lose it, or at least I do. It's when the yells come out. It's bringing back adventure into lives of women because that's what I needed and craved. It's bringing in that inner calm power. It's finding out your hobbies that you love, like horses and dance and hiking. It's playing. It's connecting, focusing on relationships in a deeper way that actually fill you up instead of drain you. Because a lot of us have those relationships where we give more than we receive. This is really coming home to you because it's changed my life, and I really want it to change other people's. So this is not a push. It's not even a promo. It really is just sharing my story of it took me a lot to get here. I still have a ways to go in really allowing myself to stand in my power and have my voice heard. And if you saw any part of yourself in this story, I want you to know that you're not alone and that there is another way, one that doesn't ask you to push harder, but instead to listen deeper. Because the work that we are doing, healing generational trauma, helping our nervous systems hit a reset where we get to feel calm and flexible, creating a life that feels sustainable, a life that we feel alive and fun, like we were little girls. Remember when you used to dance and twirl and laugh out loud with big belly laughs before somebody made fun of you for laughing so big, right? There was a time where you were free. And this is just remembering it and bringing her back in a safe space, in a held container with women just like us. Magnetic Her isn't about learning more. It's really about experiencing, because you have already done the therapy. You've already read the self-help books. You've already taken the courses. And you probably have a bunch of them half done or not started, resting somewhere. This is what helps you go back and have the nervous system capacity to create the life you want, to use the information from those programs that are just sitting there collecting dust, metaphorically, because you didn't have the capacity. Because it's understanding when you step into something new, your nervous system is going to try to stop you. And that doesn't mean you're failing, and it doesn't mean that you're wrong, and it doesn't mean that there's anything broken about you. It just means your nervous system is doing its job. Your nervous system is doing its job when it feels overstimulated and overreacting. So what if we switched that? What if we allowed it to see that opening your credit card bill or opening an email or that your kids' behavior isn't a threat? That you could react in a way that feels a little bit more regulated, and your nervous system knows it's not a saber-toothed tiger. Your nervous system is able to identify what a threat is and what's not, because that's where we want to be. You can stand from your power. Lynn Schulte is a mentor of mine. Incredible work. And she talks about when you stand in your pelvic bowl, from the bottom of your bowl, if you think of your pelvic space as a bowl, this comes from Tammy Lynn Kent's work from Wild Feminine. But if you see your pelvis as a bowl and you kind of tune into that bowl, some of us are completely out of the bowl and can't even come into connection of our pelvic space. Some of us are sitting at the top of the bowl. And so Lynn's analogy, and I absolutely love it, is when you are sitting at the top of your bowl and you are yelling to get people's attention, it's like you're standing on the rooftop of a stadium yelling to get people's attention. Nobody can hear you. Nobody can see you. But when you come down into the bottom of your bowl, when you live in the power and presence of your bowl, it's like standing in the middle of the field where everyone can see you and everyone can hear you. This is the shift I want to make in the world. This is the movement I want to create, where as women, we are not reactive, but we are working from our power, where our voices can be heard, where real change can happen in the world, where we're rearing our children in a way that feels aligned and supportive and good to both us and them, where it doesn't feel like we are literally being sucked dry by all of the to-dos in our lives. So tune into your own self. Just get curious. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? What would feel aligned and good to you? The link to Magnetic Her is in the show notes if you want to check it out. I'd love to walk this journey with you. But I also know you can do it on your own too. I was talking to my son. Both my kids have dyslexic tendencies or are dyslexic. And so reading has been a struggle to learn. And my son and daughter both do tutoring, which has been incredible in support. We do a specific dyslexic tutoring program. Well, and he's like, why do I have to do tutoring? I hate tutoring. I can learn to read on my own. I'm like, yeah, 100% you can. But learning to read on your own, and I use the analogy of going to grandma and grandpa's house, which we live in Colorado. My in-laws live in Montana, and my parents live in Washington State. He said, okay, learning to read on your own is like riding your bike to grandma and grandpa's house. You could get there, but it's going to be long, and it's going to be windy, and it's going to be an adventure, but it's going to take you a while. And that's okay. For some people, that's okay. And I said, going to school and working with your teacher in your main class, that's like riding a bus, right? It's fun. You're there with other people. There's a collective energy of learning, of shifting. You're learning stuff from your teacher. So it's riding the bus. It's a fun experience. But sometimes you don't want to give up the community, the fun, right? But you do want to get there more direct and faster. And tutoring is like taking the airplane. And we do a lot of long car trips because we do have family, lots of places, and my husband and I absolutely love to drive. So my kids have been on a lot of long car trips. They've done the trip from Colorado to Montana and Washington multiple times. They know this. And they've also ridden the plane. And they know how fun the plane is. And so I explained that tutoring is like riding the plane. Is one better than the other? Of course not. It just depends on how you want your journey. There are people that are absolutely gonna choose to ride their bike from Colorado to Montana and love that journey. I see that as like doing the self-help route. Nothing wrong with it. Gonna take you longer. A lot of cool stops on the way. A group container, like I have in Magnetic Her, that's like riding the bus. It's fun. You have a whole collective of people who are on the same journey with you, who can share the stories and share the experience and absolutely love in the growth and cheer you on. That's a fun experience. And there are some people that like, I want the direct route. I want to take the plane, get to the same destination, just get there a lot faster. I'm still in a collective, but I get the personal attention I need. And so I added that in. So there's an amplified version of Magnetic Her that is like the plane that you get one-on-one. And there's the bus version that is super fun in a community, in a collective. And the self-help, that's on your own. So I invite you, if it resonates, check out the link below. And just tune into what you need. In this crazy, busy world, tune in to what you need. I want to share that I am so grateful that you are here in my life. I'm grateful that you're holding space, that you show up to listen to the podcast. It means a lot to me. It truly does. And I want to tell you that I like you and I love you. And that I think you are such an incredible human being. You can change the world, especially if you step into your calm power. You can change the world because you are smart and you are fun and you are tenacious and you are creative and you are courageous and you're an incredible human being. And I wish you all the happiness that today can bring you. I will talk to you on the next episode. Hey, before you go, just a little bit of legal. This podcast is designed for educational purposes only. It is not to replace any expert advice from your doctors, therapists, coaches, or any other professional that you would work with. It's just a chat with a friend, me, where we get curious about ideas, thoughts, and things that are going on in our lives. And as we're talking about friends, if you know someone who would benefit from the conversation today, please share. Because I think the more that we open up these conversations, the more benefit we all get. So until next time, give yourself a big hug from me and stay curious, because that's the fun in this world.